friend, brother, colleague, and constituent, and I'm underlining constituent this morning, Daniel. I'm so grateful for you for
campaigning, boy.
I work hard for every single voter, and not even Daniel as I take for granted, because I know if I succeed with them, the comments from you and from Kingstown Park, you know, so I get every one of them, the comments, the combats, and all the derivatives.
And the Haynes and all.
Haynes, the whole derivatives.
And I want to comment, that's an important point there. Don't assume, eh?
Huh? No, I don't assume.
Don't assume.
I don't want it
yes,
20 days before election, me and Daniel Vex, and he changed his mind.
So you gotta get out of
Fellas just lose a seat by one vote.
Exactly.
You know, no, but I'm grateful for Daniel's compliment. You know, I was walking down this morning down the Tongnell area, but not for the first time. But it reminded me that when I'm going down there, I can see all of West Kingstown, but I'm walking through East Kingstown. And frequently, if I mention the tongue from Lomans, it's one of the best views I can get of Central Kingstown.
Yeah.
It is very hard to see Central Kingstown from Central Kingstown. It is easier to see it from
On the two flanks.
the flanks from another constituency.
Yeah.
And you'll find variations of that. And the lesson there about all of that, sometimes, you know, you have to see circumstances and situations from an alternative vantage point. And our presence as an opposition gives us a unique position, sometimes an advantage, to see how government should be run. And people ought to take that very, very seriously. So this morning, as I welcome all the people from Central Kingstown and in the diaspora and all of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I want to tell them, even more than ever, your representative is committed to a victory for the new Democratic Party, to lend all of the support that I can to the leader of the party, and to see that we are successful. I fully understand that we have to roll up our short sleeves and we have to work even harder. I don't think anybody would be offended if I said it, because in the same walking about this morning, I was stopped in Tongue Hill. Blondie-Board, good morning. By Blondie-Board, who asked for 2 minutes. And he was there with Gemma Campbell, an old schoolmate and friend of us on the pastures and so on, so many ways. And I said, Blondie, no, I'm stopping not because of you, I'm stopping because of Gemma. But Blondie wanted to make a point to me, Bert, and it was simply this. And this is the second time I'd heard it repeated in the last 24 hours. Major, not because the people fed up of the ULP, must you all assume that they will turn to NDP and that you all will win the elections. You and every single member of your party have to work much harder to gain that electoral victory that we won. And I take that very, very seriously. Because before I had left Kingstown this morning, as so often happens, I heard on one radio station, and Daniel, I want you to listen to this, because they often come at you and myself, ignoring all the value of our experience and use our EAs and for their own convenience. The point they were making is that Major has been in the house for 15 years, but he has not been as aggressive as he should be. So that dismisses me. That's one radio station. Last week, I heard another radio station said that if they had appointed me leader of the New Democratic Party, we would have had civil war by this time. So one radio station is saying you come back, and the other one saying you're biting too much, or biting too hard. And by the time I reached back from my walk to the Sign Hill intersection, where somebody was sharing the conversations with me, another person was saying, we want you in the opposition. I said, but I'm there already and I'm doing everything me. He said, no, not the opposition, I mean the government side. So it reminded me of an old calypso of the man in the donkey. As you walk, you can't please you go on the donkey and say, taking advantage. You know the song?
Man,
donkey and the kid,
old
yes.
fool.
But
old man, like you never went to school.
Leave that to Vogo. But the point is, people have to be seized at the fact that those of us who have the privilege to be the leadership of the party, whether it's the GenSec, whether the chairman, Daniel Cummings, the vice president, Pat, myself, whatever you are, the president himself, we are the president of the Women's Youth Arm, we are everyone to the last committed more than ever for a political victory. And we have to ask those people who love our party and love it so badly, especially those who sometimes are seen and are perceived to be spokespersons of the party, to be in sync and in unison with the messages that come out of the New Democratic Party. You can't be yes-butters and reserve the right, as in fact you're so entitled to give negative interpretations or connotations to the party. If you're defending the party, defend your party to the core, because when you validate the views of the other side, they then take it to say, you see what we say NDP already, and it makes our job that much harder. You see, but I was making a point last evening, and I want to remind us, quite apart from the thieving, stealing, and cheating, there are other circumstances which have kept us in the NDP in opposition, Just the exercise of victimization, just the exercise of the fear factor, have caused over 5,000 NDP supporters to take the belly and make boat and find residence in all parts of the Caribbean and significantly in Canada. And so we have had a much harder replacement challenge.
Correct.
For that hemorrhage, that loss to the party, than the other side has. In fact, their people are encouraged to stay here and graze on what they perceive as a green pasture, while we are hung out there to starve, and we have to be working overtime. And Daniel, as an engineer, will tell you what happens to an engine when it is running non-stop. If the coolant isn't there, you're not putting any additives. If the oil isn't there, what can happen?
In addition, Major, for the few of their people who are overseas, they have the money to bring them in specifically. For the election.
So those are factors, but I want us to collectively work and dispense this notion of NDP already. The leader was on the program on Monday, and he said, bring it on. He is leader of the party. We are supporting cast of the party. If he says bring it on, we have to have that belief that he has the stratagem. He knows what he's about. We may not agree on the evidence of all that we think there is, but we have to have some respect for the fact that he is a professional, not just as a lawyer, but he's a qualified person in political science, that he has had experience in living in Canada. He's been in Parliament for 4 times. Daniel and myself are just 2 times elected members. And that we speak as a collective. Whatever are his deficiencies, it is our responsibility to help him compensate. And as it is for him, to look at our blind spots. We have to cast light over each other's shadows and go forward. So this morning, Bert, I'm saying to you, emphatically, in the ordinary course of a game of cricket, you would find that the umpires will go out on the field, followed very closely by the batsmen to commence the innings. Today, I am in the wicket, waiting for the umpires to come out to take guard, because I want to respond very strongly to one of the radio commentaries this morning. I trust that he's listening, that his tape recording is on. Bing Boom Mitchell Joseph, my good friend, St. Vincent only original bad man, that I want to be explicit on a point that I made this morning. Because there is a view at times that this is a political party that is timid, that it is fearful, it is doubtful, it is apprehensive, it is over-analytical, it is short of action, and it's indecisive, when in fact nothing is further from the truth than that. Let me say something. I've been around in politics for nearly 40 years. I have not seen a political leader who has been more aggressive and robust in opposition politics than Arnhem Eustace. Arnhem has staged more frontal demonstrations in this country than any political leader at any given time.
Correct.
More than Joshua, more than Cato, more than Mitchell. I want to repeat that. Arnhem Ulrich Eustace, whether people perceive us to have differences and or not, has been more robust, aggressive, and confrontational and assertive in his leadership of the Democratic Party on his years of stewardship than any political leader in the history of this country, even including the Bluff Roadblock Revolution.
Which was driven by the trade union, not the
precisely.
party.
So that we have always been there. And sometimes people do not zero in enough on the way we represent ourselves, even in the Parliament. And I want to speak about in the month of December in particular. 2 important statements that were made. One, My colleague Daniel Cummins asserted that the Parliament was being manipulated to allow us to function suboptimally, that is less than what should have been the parliamentary entitlements and privileges. By which we mean they extended the Parliament of October all the way into December, which meant that we were not allowed question time, which is an important aspect of parliamentary debate. And more so, to add newer things to the order paper with an insufficiency of time for us to prepare for debate, and yet we were able to come up
Abuse of power.
on every occasion at the 11th hour and out-debate the government, whether it has been on the marijuana bills, international business activities, or domestic items. We have held our own, and very strongly. But in the month of December, when they thought that they had us corner on the International Business Companies Bill, and the Prime Minister rose and spoke at length on how much we were bullied, at least two very important things came out of that debate. First of all, because in the previous Parliament it went unnoticed, I drew to the attention of the Speaker of the House that in the ordinary course of events, when he comes in, we should stand, and that I have been sitting. And I said, I have been sitting not out of disrespect for your office or for the institution, but to draw attention to you, the Speaker of the House, that you have singularly been presiding over a House that has raped the Constitution of this country by not facilitating a vote of no confidence. And we are the only country in the Commonwealth that does not allow a vote of no confidence to take place. So I said, you have eroded the democracy of our country, which you obtained in 1951, and you have violated our constitutional provisions. And I'm hanging my head this morning in symbolic shame that we in this House have allowed that to happen. And this country should have rioted on that issue. Those are strong stands. Eyewitness News have carried it. The newspaper have subsequently carried it. ANN have carried it. And other radio stations have picked it up. Even Beige, who is not necessarily CLAIR LEACOCK or major friendly, have called in and given support to me, as I called it on Father Abraham's program and in another forum to ventilate that point. Because it is pivotal to how we go forward as a democracy if our Parliament is not functioning in the way that it is. But today, Bert, now the other matter on that occasion, when the Prime Minister was debating that international financial bill and said how annoyed he was and referred to the rest of the world, the European Union, as ruffians, he admitted that they had bullied fellow Caribbean countries with respect to the Citizens by Investment programs, even though he himself did not support it. Now, the point I raised in that regard, Bud, is this, that he was making a hell of a noise to save an industry, the International Business Companies Act, by which he admitted St. Vincent gained only $3 million, but which was subjected to the same problems of corresponding bank issues, de-risking issues, blacklisting issues, as can obtain in the Citizens by Investment program, which brings in $500 million. So you're taking the same legal risk for $3 million that you could have taken.
That's the point.
For $500 million.
That's the point.
And any sane and rational Prime Minister will say, however personally I feel on a matter, that I would put my country first.
Bottom line.
Now, why is that important, Bud? It's important because I go straight to source to say and to share with you what I did last evening on your radio program, where I went to the Dominica budget for 2018-2019, and I want to read it again. Not that the New Democratic Party agrees that we'll do the same thing as Dominica does, because there are options. But Daniel, let me read this for you.
You go ahead.
This is the budget report of 2018 and 19 for Dominica. Madam Speaker, and this is the Prime Minister speaking. For fiscal year 2018-2019, non-tax revenue is estimated at $428.8 million. You hear what he's saying? Non-tax revenue.
Out of a budget of?
It's estimated at 420. I'll come to that, Daniel. In St. Vincent and the Grenadines, our non-tax revenue is $89 million. Dominica's is 428. And he goes on to make the point This comes primarily from the Citizens by Investment Program, CBIP, which is expected to bring in $406.6 million. Now, multiply that by 10, Bing, means that over the next 10 years, Dominica, on current trajectory, can earn as much as $4 billion from that program. Even if it fell short by half, they will collect $2 billion.
Huge.
Even if it fell down to 25% of current earnings, they will be into $1 billion earnings. That is $1 billion that taxpayers don't have to pay, or government doesn't have to find by tax revenues. So flag that. You can't, as a prime minister of a poor, impoverished, resource-limited society, ignore $400 million on the altar of some kind of ideological
Rubbish.
belief. Me not sell passport, me not sell passport.
Fantasy.
But at the same time, you're selling Vincent citizenship to Ames, Wise, Nano Port, Loyal Bank. You're selling it to every ship that flies a flag of convenience for St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Exposing us to the same risk.
And a whole range of people in St. Vincent, destination unknown, who have citizenships in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Even some people who have never set foot in St. Vincent and Grenadines are ambassadors abroad for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, who ain't born here, as we say. So where's this patriotism you're talking about? And give me a break on patriotism. Because only as recent as December, you went back to homage to the Queen to accept her awards, while at the same time you're rejecting the Privy Council. So that is your contradiction. But I want to speak to Bing specifically. And thank you, Brother Richards, this morning, because he said I was reluctant and I deliberately drew Bing out on where we would raise monies. I have taken the position that the New Democratic Party ought to be making a case for a 2.5 to a 3% increase for the salaries and wages of our public servants. Bing went off on a rage. That is reckless. That is irresponsible. Where you'll find $10 million a month.
Bing.
That's Bing.
Bing is a financial expert.
He's the expert. Bing is a financial expert. Where you'll find $10 million a month to pay salaries and wages to public servants. But Ralph yesterday said that he was considering some salary increase to public servants. But Bing didn't find him under outrage. Bing and them will find that brave and forward thinking. But the Prime Minister said that for every 1% increase you have, you need to find $3 million. So I want to speak in some detail as to this matter because I think through these things very carefully when I speak about them. First of all, the government of the day that called itself a Labour government has violated the collective bargaining process that the New Democratic Party practiced so well.
For years.
For years. In fact, it was they who argued, the ULP, the Gonzalez and Company, that we should give 30% when we caused this government's life to be cut short. Now, 30% then, and I'm asking for 3% now, makes me reckless as contrast to people who would ask for 30%. But I will drill down on these things. I want to be very, very specific because this is an evidence-based political party. I did something today that I've never done before on Bing's program. And I described myself as an economist because very often we speak to Mr. Yusuf as an economist. I have a first degree in business management, a BSc in management, 40 years ago. I have an MSc in management research. I have an MBA in finance and human resource development, and I did economics all the way up to doctoral level that I cut short to come into politics, which means I've covered the sufficiency of the theoretical construct of economics at a first degree level, and I have been a practicing macroeconomics person within the parliament and outside the parliament. So I can so define myself, even though strictly, properly speaking, I'm a management specialist and consultant. So I bring that to bear. I say that to make the point that I'm not second to Camilo Gonzalez, the Minister of Finance and Master Economic and Finance.
Oh, we're ahead of him.
Nor am I second to Ralph Gonzalez. In fact, there are several things I can teach him in that respect, and by virtue of my practice and my qualifications. So I don't speak through my hat. I speak to an intellectual and an academic authority, and I speak by virtue of parliamentary practice, and I'm also can speak with respect to my own business acumen that has taken me thus far in life. Those are my fundamentals. Now let's come to the issue at hand. Let me bring a few things to the attention of the Vincent Republic who are listening to me, and hope that the media carries this. When the ULP came into office, the current revenue for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the tax revenue, was $238 million when they came into office in 2001. $238 million. So that is $530 million. In other words, over the 18 years, they have taken away some $300 million more from the taxpayers of this country to run St. Vincent and the Grenadines. When they came into office, non-tax revenue was $50 million. Today it is $89 million. Another $40 million. All that is money from the pockets of Vincent to run the affairs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So that's the first thing I want to show, how much more they have extracted from the economy. If you look at the services that have been provided in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, you'll see that the services that are provided for goods and services in 18 years ago was $56 million for goods and services. Today, it is a mere $23 million.
Wow.
So over the 18-year period, for having taken over $340 million more, only $20 million more of goods and services are on average provided to Vincent and Daniel.
Wow.
Those are the harsh realities. So the question is, where has all the money gone? The money has gone because in 2000, we spent $52 million on debt servicing. Today we spend $200 million on debt servicing. So Vincent has been spending more and more and more and more and more on taxes, for which we are getting very little in return. We are bailing out this country. That explains some of the jobless growth that we are talking about. Now, even up to last year, you will see that the government, and people must listen to us when we speak. They said to this country that they were going to spend $776 million
In the budget.
in the budget, but they only had $619 million. That's what they said. They were short. That's what they said. But they came down on the capital side and presented a budget to us, which said that they would receive $162 million from other receipts. In reality, they didn't receive $1 million or 1 red cent from that source. And they have been doing this year in, year out, to the extent that the Director of Audit has drawn to the attention that the capital program is misleading the nation, and they must stop it. And I'm speaking now because they will do it again in the 2019 budget, save and except that it will be in excess of the $162 million, but by some higher figure. Now, why is Major making these points and making these connections? And take me back to the Dominica situation, where they got $404 million of non-tax revenue by decisions by investment programs.
In 1 year.
In 1 year. In our last budget, we borrowed $73 million from outside and $74 million from inside. We borrowed $150 million. If in fact we can gain $400 million, or 50% of that, or even 25% of it, we don't have to incur that $150 million worth of borrowings.
And reduce our debt payments.
And reduce our debt payments.
Have more money for
and have more money.
Goods and services.
The very government has just in December borrowed $135 million to build a hotel in Mount Win, which when I asked what is the net present value or the internal rate of return or what is the payback period, couldn't give me a proper answer. And gave me some guinea hen ram goat story and explanation, but which showed that by the time they reach year 5, when they start to get some money trickling back, obviously the first trickling in will go not to the taxpayers, it will go not to the government, it will go to the people who are managing the hotel, because they will cover their investments first. But it will cost St. Vincent another $10 million per month to finance a hotel in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and a cost to the taxpayers of this nation, which will get nothing further. So I'm saying that if we offered a 3% increase to our public servants, it will cost around $9 million per year. because the current wage bill for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Daniel, and you're the mathematician, is $300 million. If you add 0.3% to $300 million, it is $9 million in the wage increase, or $750,000 per month approximately. Rounded figure. That's doable. Now you're asking how doable? Well, it's doable by the evidence of the government itself. And again, because we're an evidence-based party, I'll go back to the most reliable authority, the 2011 audit report of the government, which shows that in 2011, and I'll read the figures are immaterial until I get to a particular statistic which you note. The actual expenditure of $571 million, and we're speaking about 2011, was $54 million. Less. Or 9% less than the revised estimate of $625 million. You understand that? So in the budget for 2011, which the director for the producer showed that there were 9% less. Yes. And St. Vincent, quote unquote, is no worse, or was no worse in 2011 for the services received. And I'm satisfied that when we get the 2018 report, we'll see again that every year, because this is how the government balances the budget, you know.
Not spending.
By not spending.
Yep.
So the impression is created for the Searchlight and other newspapers that this is a big spending and a big wielding government.
Nope.
But through the year, they don't spend the money that has been appropriated by the parliament.
But let's delve down into that, Major, because oftentimes you hear public servants and others complaining that they don't have teachers for this, they don't have nurses for that. They do not fill the vacancies.
Precisely. So that's the 9%,
they don't spend the money.
That's the 9% there.
That's what it is.
On the other hand, and in the same wetboard, it must not be lost in the Vincent, and the press don't cover these things.
Nope.
Because I said so again in the parliament. This is 2018. This is 3 years after the last general elections. 3 budgets after the last general elections, by which government has been issuing special warrants after special warrants after special warrants. None of them have come to the parliament to be appropriated. You think it's by chance that the government has not produced before the parliament, or come to us for appropriation and for approval of those monies which is spent without authority?
Millions.
Because clearly there are millions of dollars they spent
without authority.
And I'm pretty sure that the wages of the lawyers alone in the current petition case is approximating an area $3 or $4 million, which is almost 1.5% of the wages that could have gone to public servants.
Correct.
Bing Mitchell Joseph, put that in a pipe
and smoke it.
Yeah. That Major and the New Democratic Party knows what we're talking about. In addition to that, it's the very government that said that they were giving a tax relief to those people who would come forward and pay the tax. And I think they paid a figure of nearly $150 million that was outside there. So greater tax efficiencies can save the $9 million or thereabout to pay our public servants. So why must our people be held standing still and marking time where we have an unproductive public service or underproductive service because victimization, nepotism, and favoritism is taking place, and not because the NDP said so or Daniel said so, but because the court has said so. That is due to an absence of fairness. We are not in a position where we can do more with less, because we have an undermotivated public service. So the fact of the matter is that if we go by way of the Citizen by Investment program, it's not just simply a matter that government will gain revenues to consolidated funds that the scheme requires that you pay into, but by dint of the expenditure that these investors will bring, we will increase our tax take. And when people at the bottom of the ladder get more money, there's a greater circulation of the dollar in the country. I want to repeat that, you know. The bottom-up approach to economic development that the New Democratic Party is talking about would see greater circulation of money in St. Vincent and the Grenadines than the current top-down approach that they are taking towards the development of this country. So that if we make the comparison and the contrast, we talk about Argyle Airport getting 7 flights per week. St. Kitts Nevis gets 10 per day. And it's half the size of the country. And with a Citizens by Investment program that is greater than the total budget of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We want to ignore that. You want to scoff at that? We want to invoke the fact that Antigua and St. Lucia, which contribute 40% of the OECS economy, both see the value of our citizen by investment program. Do we want to ignore the fact that Dominica, that has had hurricanes and disasters, and for which our village loaned money to bail them out nearly 10, 15 years ago and had storm again, now has the highest growth rate in the Caribbean by 9%. You think Dominica can boast of that growth rate? If they did not, without the investments?
Not possible.
It's not possible. And the only other way that government will ever be able to get our civil servants to keep pace with inflation is if they're going to increase the VAT from the current 16% to 17, 18%. So that is like digging a hole
to fill a hole.
To fill a hole.
What about
so anybody who's creative and thinking must realize that the time has come for regime change and to give a party that has seen the opposition from its wilderness years in a different direction, of a different path towards a better St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we do not stay there. We present the argument as well that we have a completely different point of view to economic development than they now have, by virtue of the fact of the industries that we are intending to promote in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that has a greater integration and involvement of the whole set, including our approach to constitutional development. Let me use one last point, Board, before I come back to normal political points that we must not allow to stand. Gonzalez must not be allowed to come and tell Vincent and the people that his son is coming up with some creative means called PAVE to produce footpaths and back walls for people in this country across communities and constituencies. It's in the Democratic Party, on the use of Mitchell and Company, John Horn and all those before us, that they cried down and called Gucci tracks that showed that the little things to the small man meant a big deal. We in the New Democratic Party have been championing as an aspect of local government of bringing decision-making closer to the people and to the source, a constituency development fund, in which we say if every constituency develops, the whole country develops. At the end of the day, Daniel's West Kingstown is no better off than it was in January last year. Neither is mine, nor yours, or Patel, or Nature, or Terrence, or Friday.
Nothing happening.
Nothing happens. Because this assumption that our trickle-down approach will reach down to constituency, it's not happening. It's not happening. You don't even have a bus service from Kingstown to take you to Argyle. You don't even have a taxi service from Stubbs to take you to Kingstown, even though you have an international airport present. You go and compare Trinidad and Tobago, compare Barbados, compare others, and see what would happen. Compare countries which have development, and you'll see, even at the presence of hotel sites, the traffic is so great that taxi people could function from hotels just to back and forth to airport. We have not even near that yet, and probably wouldn't get there before another 10, 15 years, by which time I may not even be here on earth to carry this case. So as I am in my giving thanks years leading up to an election, I want to speak to that. I'll speak to other matters of the constituency of Central Kingstown, because I'm going to make a forward appeal. Because there isn't this belief that the 15 representative parliamentarians, in other words, can carry a battle is not good enough. Every man jack who wants to see a change has to roll up his or her sleeve and express that faith and belief in the party members. By joining a youth arm, saying that their children are registered, joining a party group, calling into radio programs, helping the people in the diaspora community to assist us. Because at times we are like people with broomstick fighting against tank.
Making sure that people who not belonging to a community
and very often our bulletproof vest may not be enough to go forward.
Yeah.
So I'm saying we are ready. We are leading from up front. Our bayonets are out. We are ready to bring victory for the people of St. Vincent and give them relief, but we need them to be with us. That's my opening salvo this morning. Thank you very much, Board.